let me tell you a story so completely twisted, it feels like it was ripped straight from a Hollywood script. It's a story about a missing boy, what seemed like a miraculous return, and a secret so dark it almost defies belief. This is a case that really forces you to ask, how well do you actually know the people you love? If you're into mysteries that will keep you up at night, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because you are not going to want to miss what's coming. And that's not just me saying it, that's a direct quote about this case. It starts with a family's absolute worst nightmare, which then somehow morphs into their wildest dream come true, before it turns into something far, far worse. Okay, so our story starts in San Antonio, Texas, with a kid named Nicholas Barclay. Nicholas, born in 1980, was a bit of a troubled teen. By 13, he already had a juvenile record, he was getting into fights, he was a handful for his mom. But, he was still her son. And then on June 13th, 1994, he just vanished. One evening, he was out playing basketball, and he called home for a ride. His older brother, Jason, told him to just walk home. He never made it. For months, there was absolutely nothing. The only weird thing was a 911 call from Jason about 3 months later, claiming he heard Nicholas trying to break into their garage. The police showed up, found nothing. And then, for 3 long years, just silence. The family started to accept the horrible reality that they might never see him again. And then, the impossible happened. A phone call. A boy had been found all the way over in Spain, claiming to be Nicholas Barclay. He told this absolutely harrowing story of being kidnapped by a child trafficking ring, taken to Europe, and finally, after years of abuse, escaping. For the Barclay family, you can imagine it was a miracle. Their son was alive. So, Nicholas's older sister, Carrie, she immediately gets on a plane and flies to Spain. But the reunion, it wasn't exactly what you'd expect. The boy seemed scared. He was hiding his face under a baseball cap and sunglasses, telling her he was worried she wouldn't even recognize him after everything he'd been through. And this, right here, is where the story starts to unravel. This moment just goes to show how desperately the family wanted to believe. Carrie looked at this boy, who wouldn't even really show his face, and she said, "I knew it was him." He told them that the trauma had blocked out most of his early memories. He even passed a police photo test, only making one tiny mistake. And with that, he was on a plane, heading back to Texas to rejoin his family. But here's the thing. The inconsistencies were, they were glaring and immediate. The real Nicholas was a blue-eyed blonde kid from Texas. This boy, who is supposedly 16 now, had dark brown hair and brown eyes. And strangest of all, the kid from San Antonio now spoke with a thick French accent. So, how do you possibly explain away differences that big? Well, you do it with an extraordinary story. He claimed his captors had used chemicals and experiments to change his eye and hair color to disguise him. The accent? Oh, that was because they forced him to speak only French for years. And the memory loss was just a psychological reaction to all the trauma. And the family, they bought all of it. They were so relieved to have him back, they actually told the authorities to just close the case. Now, this story was so incredible that it attracted a documentary film crew. And working with them was a local private investigator named Charlie Parker. And Charlie, well, unlike the family and even the authorities, he was not buying it. He was deeply suspicious, and his instincts were about to blow this whole case wide open. Parker focused on the one part of your body that really doesn't change much as you age, your ears. He got an old picture of Nicholas Barclay and compared it to a photo of the boy who came back. And they didn't match. I mean, not even close. He was convinced he was dealing with an imposter, so he took everything he found straight to the authorities. Finally, 5 whole months after this boy's return, the FBI got involved. They secured a court order to get his fingerprints and DNA samples. Now, the family was still refusing to believe anything was wrong, but science doesn't lie. The truth was about to come out. The results came back. And the person living with the Barclays was not Nicholas. He was a master con artist, wanted by Interpol, who had used over 500 different false identities in his career. 500! His real name was Frédéric Bourdin. He wasn't a 16-year-old American teenager at all. He was a 23-year-old Frenchman, a serial imposter, so good at what he did they nicknamed him the Chameleon. He eventually confessed to everything in court, pleaded guilty to passport fraud and perjury, and got 6 years in prison. But finding the imposter, that didn't close the book on this case. Not at all. In fact, it ripped open a brand new, much darker chapter. Because if Frédéric Bourdin was an imposter, it raised one absolutely terrifying question. Yeah, where was the real Nicholas Barclay? And just like that, the entire focus of the investigation shifted, away from the conman from France and directly onto the family in Texas who had so easily accepted him. And then, from his prison cell, Bourdin dropped an absolute bombshell. He claimed the family knew. He said they knew he was an imposter right from the beginning. He said they just played along with the whole thing, and for the life of him, he couldn't figure out why. Why would a family pretend a complete stranger was their missing son? With this new accusation, all those bizarre little details suddenly started pointing to a really disturbing possibility. Bourdin claimed that the sister, Carrie, had secretly coached him before that police test, feeding him little family details. He remembered that the brother, Jason, never warmed up to him, and the only thing he ever said to him was a very cryptic, "Good luck." And that weird 911 call from years ago? Investigators now wondered if that was an attempt to create a false trail, a tactic sometimes used to suggest a victim is still alive. Investigators now had a horrifying new theory that maybe the family, or at least one of them, was involved in Nicholas's original disappearance. And they had a prime suspect they really needed to talk to, the older brother, Jason. But just as they were closing in, the case took another tragic turn. Before they could properly investigate him, Jason Barclay, who had a long-term cocaine addiction, died from an overdose. Whatever secrets he might have held about what really happened to his little brother, they died with him. With their main person of interest gone and no new evidence to go on, the investigation just stalled. The official case of the real Nicholas Barclay went cold. I mean, what do you even make of that? It's just one of the most unsettling endings to a story I've ever heard. Were they a family so blinded by grief that they saw what they wanted to see? Or were they complicit in covering up a truly terrible crime? The fact that we might never know for sure is honestly the most chilling part of this entire thing. And so we are left with this one haunting, unanswered question. What truly happened to Nicholas Barclay? The imposter was found, but the boy from San Antonio is still missing. I honestly don't know what to believe. This story has stuck with me for years. What do you think happened? Let me know your theories in the comments below. Please, if you found this story as captivating as I did, hit that like button. It helps a ton. And thank you sincerely for subscribing and for watching. I'll see you next time for another deep dive into a case that will make you question everything.